For consultations, tutoring, and courses, please visit laurabharatastrologer.com. And if you like my videos, please like and subscribe. Thank you.
Hello everyone. Today's video is on Raj Yogas from the Atmakaraka, the 1st and 7th Lords. And this is a Jaimini Astrology technique from Chapter 1, Pada 3, Sutras 30 through 34, and Upadesha Sutras or Jaimini Sutram. They're the same thing, okay? And this is a very general technique. It is based on the Rashi or the birth chart. It does not use Vargas or divisional charts. So it's very general, and you don't use it alone to predict success at all. If you see success based on Parasara Raj Yogas and other Jaimini Raj Yogas, which I'm going to do videos about subsequently, probably the next couple of videos that I do are going to be about these specific Jaimini Raj Yogas. After you look at those things in the chart, then you can do this technique to see if it will give it an extra boost or if it will bring it down a notch. Okay, because since it's based on the 1st and 7th Lords, meaning the Lord of the Ascendant and the Lord of the 7th house, this is a very general technique based on everybody born within a 2-hour period around the same time and in the same place, okay? So this technique is just something you're going to look at after you look at everything else, predicting success, okay? But it is useful in that it will help a person if they're running a specific dasha, or it will bring down their success a little bit and give them some troubles based on the dasha that they're running. And it's very simple, okay? All right, so to get started. Now, you should get a piece of paper like this, like what I have right here, to kind of, and you'll see what I mean in a second, to write down what the yogas are and how many there are in favor and how many there are taking away, okay? So, for the technique. Now, from the Atmakaraka, this is from the Atmakaraka in the Rashi, and you're always counting forwards for this technique. Even if the Atmakaraka is in a feminine sign, you're always going to be counting forward for this technique because he says in this technique, Baba, and Baba is house, and he always means to count forward when he says Baba, okay? Now, from the Atmakaraka, see if there are any benefics joined the Atmakaraka, meaning in the 1st from the Atmakaraka, in the 2nd, in the 4th, in the 5th, in the 8th, or in the 9th, okay? See if there are any benefics in those houses from the Atmakaraka. When I say benefic, I mean Venus, Jupiter, a waxing moon, or Mercury, and if Mercury is joined a benefic in the Rashi. If Mercury is joined a malefic, then Mercury becomes malefic, okay? Now, if Mercury is joined a malefic and a benefic, let's say Mercury is joined Venus and a waning moon, then you look to see which planet Mercury is closest to in degrees. That will tell you if Mercury is acting as a benefic in the chart or as a malefic in the chart. And when I say malefic, when Mercury and the moon, the waning moon, are malefics, they are not malefics in the sense of Saturn and Rahu. Nothing like that at all. They just carry a little more stress involved. It doesn't mean that they don't give success. It just means that there's a little more stress and a little more giving up and loss involved with these two planets when they are malefic, okay? And it really doesn't seem fair because there's so many more malefics, especially if you have a malefic Mercury and moon. There's so many more malefics compared to benefics. But the fact is, that's just how life on Earth is, right? I mean, life on Earth is extremely difficult And, if you have bad health, if you're born in a bad situation, there's so many things that could go wrong in life and on planet Earth, and that's just the way it is. So that's how you judge benefics and malefics. And the malefics are the nodes, Rahu and Ketu, Sun, Saturn, Mars, Mercury conjoined a malefic or closest to a malefic, and a waning moon. Okay? Alrighty, so to get started, like I said, from the Atmakaraka, if you see benefics, join the Atmakaraka in the 2nd, 4th, 5th, 8th, or 9th, then you want to put, for each benefic you see, you want to add a +1 to that, okay? You do the same from the ascendant lord, from its position, and you do the same from the position of the 7th lord, the ruler of the 7th house. So why is that? Well, in Jaimini Astrology, the body is represented by the ascendant and the descendant. Not just the ascendant, as it is in Parasara astrology, but the ascendant and the descendant, because the ascendant and the descendant is the path we walk, okay? We start out in our ascendant and we walk a physical path towards the descendant, meaning we're going to engage in activities that is represented by the sign on the descendant, okay? Now, the house cusp, excuse me, the house cusp represents the actual thing, the created thing, the being, right? The ruler of the house cusp represents the being in action. So the ruler of the ascendant and the 7th house is the body in action. Just like, let's say, as an example, the 4th house cusp is the vehicle, okay? That is the created thing. That is the created car or boat or bicycle or whatever it is. The ruler of the 7th house is that vehicle in action, how well it operates, where it goes, where you store it, what, if it's going to break down, or if it's, if it's fast, if it's slow. It's its action in the world, okay? That's how that works. Now, so that's why you take the 1st and the 7th lord in this Jaimini technique. So from the ascendant lord, you look at any planets conjoined it, or any benefics joined it, in the 2nd from it, in the 4th, 5th, 8th, or 9th from it. Always counting forwards, okay? You do that with the 7th lord as well, and this is all in the Rashi, or in the birth chart. So then, now, you do the same thing from the 3rd and the 6th house, only this time using malefics. So from the Atmakaraka, look at the 3rd and the 6th house from the Atmakaraka to see if there are any malefics. If there are, that's also a +1. Jaimini likes malefics in the 3rd and the 6th, and so does Parasara, really. And the reason is because the 3rd house is the house of courage, and a strong malefic gives a lot of courage to face strong obstacles, a lot of perseverance to go through anything that gets in their way. The 6th house is enemies, so a strong malefic there doesn't mean that the enemies are going to beat us. It means that we will beat the enemies. We will overcome our enemies. An enemy is anybody who serves to benefit from a situation as much as you do. Okay, that's an enemy, really. So any kind of competitor, your coworkers are kind of your enemies because you're competing for a higher position, whatever it is. Anybody that serves to benefit from a situation, the same situation that you do, okay? It's competition. You want a malefic in these positions. So if you see a malefic in the 3rd or 6th from the Atmakaraka, the 3rd or 6th from the ascendant lord, or the 3rd or 6th from the 7th lord, that's a +1. Okay? So what you want to do, if you can see what I've made here, Okay, it's probably backwards, but oh well. Or maybe not, I don't know. All right, so I'm going to go through 2 examples of this in action. I'm going to use these 2 examples, but to show you this for your own horoscope, you can put the 3 planets, your Atmakaraka, the ascendant lord, your Atmakaraka, the ascendant lord, and the 7th lord. And then over here, you want to make 2 columns, a plus column and a minus column. Okay? So what you do is you tally up all the plus ones, all the benefics in the 1st, 2nd, 4th, 5th, 8th, or 9th from those planets that I mentioned, and you put a little mark under the pluses. Or if you see malefics in the 3rd or the 6th, as many as you see, you also put a little mark under the plus column, okay, for each planet. Now, you do the same for malefics in the 1st, 2nd, 4th, 5th, 8th, or 9th. If you have malefics in the 1st, 2nd, 4th, 5th, 8th, or 9th from either the Atmakaraka, the Ascendant Lord, or the 7th Lord, then that's a negative, okay? If you have malefics in those positions. So you put a little mark under the negative column, okay? If you have benefics in the 3rd or the 6th house from the Atmakaraka, the Ascendant Lord, or the 7th Lord, then you make a little mark under the negative column. These are benefics in the 3rd or the 6th, okay? So, that's how you do it. You tally it up just like that. And I'm going to show you in the example how this can play out. You can see, like, one of my examples is Martha Graham. She has +3 under 2 planets and -3 under 1. +3 is pretty good. Usually people come around 0, +1, -1, because it just cancels out each other. But if you see a lot of pluses under certain planets, when you run the dasha of those planets, then that planet is supported. That dasha is supported. If you run the antardasa of those planets, that antardasa is supported according to this technique. It might not be supported in other techniques, so they might cancel each other out. But this technique will either help bring it up a notch or knock it down a notch. Okay? Okay, so yeah, let's get to the examples, and I'll show you how this works. Oh, and another thing I want to point out before we do that is if, let's say you're running a dasha of a planet that isn't the Atmakaraka, the Ascendant Lord, or the 7th Lord, and a lot of times you are, or you're running the dasha of one of the nodes. You see that position. If it's a malefic, like if you're running Rahu dasha, you want to see if Rahu is in the 3rd house or the 6th house from any of these planets, the Atmakaraka, the Ascendant Lord, or the 7th Lord. If it is, that's a +1, okay, for each of those planets. So the most you can get is +3, or the least you can get is -3, okay? All right, so I'm going to show you how this works on a chart, all right? Okay, so here are some examples, and I just wanted to mention that I forgot to mention this before, but when Mercury is by himself, when he's alone, he's always a benefic, okay? So when Mercury is alone, he's benefic. All right. So here's a good example. Here we have Martha Graham. Martha Graham was a dancer, and she was very innovative in that she created a completely new style of dancing, and she was very successful. Okay, and she does really well to illustrate this technique. I'm using her, and I'm using David Lynch, the director.
He's also does pretty well. And if you want to do your own research into this too, this particular technique, another good person to look at that has this very well is George W. Bush, believe it or not. So yeah. So here we start with Martha Graham. Okay. So Martha's Atmakaraka is the sun. Okay. And the sun's in Taurus with Mercury. Mercury is a malefic, so that would be -1. And then the second from the Atmakaraka, we always count forwards, is Jupiter, so that's a +1. The third is empty, so nothing there. The fourth is a waxing moon, so a benefic in the fourth is a +1. The fifth, nothing is there. The sixth, there are 2 malefics, so that's +2. Okay. And then Jaimini doesn't say anything about the 7th. The 8th, there's nothing there, and the 9th, there's nothing there. So for the sun, for the Atmakaraka, she gets 1, 2, 3, 4, +4, and she gets -1. So tally that up, and she gets a +3 for the sun. A +3 is pretty solid. It's pretty good. Okay. So when she runs sun dasha or a sun antardasha, according to this technique, her success will be supported for sure. Okay. Now, from her ascendant lord, her ascendant is Gemini, so the ascendant lord is Mercury. Mercury is going to be exactly the same because the sun is malefic and they're in the same sign. So it's the same thing for Mercury. And Mercury will be +4 and a -1 for the sun. So Mercury will also be a +3. Also very good when she runs the Mahadasha of Mercury or an Antardasha of Mercury, then I'm sure that was very good for her. Okay. Now the seventh house cusp is Sagittarius. The ruler is Jupiter. Jupiter's here in Gemini. So from Jupiter, we have nothing in the second. We have a waxing moon in the third. Jaimini doesn't like benefics in the third, so that is a -1. In the fourth, there's nothing. In the fifth, there's 2 malefics, so that's a -2. Nothing in the sixth, nothing in the seventh. He doesn't say anything about the seventh anyway. Nothing in the 8th and nothing in the 9th. Okay, so so that's a -3. So for Jupiter, she had -3. So when she ran Jupiter Dasha or Jupiter Antardashas, it probably took away from her success somewhat. Okay, and yeah. Now for, let's say she's running Moon, or she was running Moon Mahadasha. How we read this is the moon is in the fourth from the ascendant lord and the Atmakaraka. The moon is waxing, so it's benefic, so that's +2. And from the 7th lord, which is Jupiter, the moon is a benefic in the 3rd house, so that's -1. So all in all, when she's running Moon Mahadasha, she gets a +2, which is a little bit better than average. Okay, that helps somewhat. Okay, yeah, so that's how that works. Now another example. David Lynch. David Lynch's Atmakaraka is also the sun here in Capricorn. So there are 2 benefics with the sun. Mercury is a benefic because he's closest to Venus. So that's 2. Nothing in the second, nothing in the third, nothing in the fourth, nothing in the fifth. And the 6th, he has a malefic. So that's +1. Jaimini doesn't say anything about the 7th, so we disregard that. Nothing in the 8th, and then a waning moon in the 9th, so that's -1. So he has +3 and a -1. He has a +2 for the sun, so above average, okay, when he runs sun dasha. And then from now from his ascendant lord, his Lagna lord, that's Mars. Mars is in Cancer with Saturn. So that's a -1. A waning moon is in the 3rd. That's a +1. Jupiter is in the 4th. That's a +1. K2 is in the 6th. That's a +1. So for Mars, he has 3 good and 1 bad, coming out to +2. So above average for Mars dasha or Mars antardasha. Okay. So his 7th lord is Venus. And Venus is here. Venus is with a benefic and a malefic. So yeah, and then nothing in any of these houses. In the 6th, Rahu is in the 6th, which is good, so that's a +1. Skip the 7th, nothing in the 8th, and the moon is in the 9th, but it's waning, so that's a -1. So he has 2 good and 2 negative, or 2 positive and 2 negative, so that comes out to 0, and which is average. Doesn't help, doesn't hinder really. Okay? Yeah, so that's how that works, and it's, you know, just a very general technique. You can kind of play around with it. It's simple, and just to see if, you know, things are boosted in the chart. Like I said, you have to look at the other success producing yogas. On, you know, if there are no yogas, look how that planet, the lajjitaadi avasthas of that planet, you know, if it's being supported by its friends, or if it's in good dignity. You know, if it has bala, I did a video on that as well, if you want to check that out. So yeah, that's that little technique. And so the next video will be on Argala. That's a very important, probably one of the most important Jaimini techniques for success. Argala tends to work very well. Okay? Yeah, so that's it for today, and thank you very much for watching. Till next time.